asshole. Quiet.
Like anything you see that are outside of this like logical
physical world,
normal daily encounters. Yeah. Anything outside of that, Bigfoot, anything where you see things. And there's been many times where people have seen things that they swear were real. And you go, God, that poor fuck. I would rather not see those things and then just have everybody just looking at you. Oh, here comes Mike with his wacky ideas. I'm one of those people, like, I was convinced that the original Bigfoot footage, Patterson Bigfoot footage, it's so fake. We'll show you that in a minute. It's so fake. But I remember one time being barbecued, looking at that, thinking it was real. I was like, maybe it's real. Oh my God, maybe I'm an asshole. Maybe I've been mocking Bigfoot this whole time, but it's real.
It's coming after you next.
You know,
what?
This is stabilized. This is people have worked on it. So you know that. But.
They stabilized the image because the real image, the guy was on a horse. And by the way, the guy was a con man. All these kooks that want to believe this. There's a whole series of things that go to it. First of all, there's the guy who took this footage was arrested for fraud for not paying for the very camera that he used to film this footage. Then there's a guy who looks just like, see, look, you can see the thing. That's the stabilized version of it.
It's creepy.
The real version of it. That's the dude, though. What is the dude's name?
Bob Hieronymus?
Yeah, right? Bob Hieronymus. Bob Hieronymus is this guy who claims that it was him in the suit, and that's him. He walks like Bigfoot, and he's a big giant dude too, big old cowboy. And not only that, there was an actual gorilla suit that this guy Patterson had bought. Like there was a person who sold him a gorilla suit, and then there was another guy named Gimlin, Bob Gimlin, I believe, who was also involved in this, who also said that it was a hoax. So
there's no saving that footage.
It's horseshit. But if you believe enough, if you get loony, and one time I got loony for like 5 minutes, I thought it was real. I was like, I think it might be real.
The Patterson Gimlin film clearly stands as the most compelling photographic evidence that we have to date, even in this age of iPhones and digital cameras and so forth. It still has set the mark so high. And not only do we have the film, but we have a remarkable track record associated with it. The cast that Roger Patterson executed himself on the day of the filming, but also some number of days later, Bob Titmus, a researcher from Canada, came to the scene and made a series of 10 footprint casts that provided a remarkable record. And a few additional examples have come to light of individuals who visited the site subsequently, and they've turned up in various circumstances. But combining those two makes a really compelling. If I just had the footprint evidence alone, I would be largely convinced of the credibility of this film. But having the image of the track maker combined with the tracks as an anatomist, as a functional morphologist, it is so compelling. I'm as convinced as I can be, short of having stood there on the sandbar on that afternoon and witnessed the event myself. This is a piece of evidence that stands up under remarkable rigor that couldn't have possibly anticipated the technologies that we are applying to it today, and also anticipated numerous aspects of what is now conventional wisdom in anthropology, which in the 1960s actually contradicted, cut across the grain of what was considered orthodoxy or the existing paradigms. That aspect in itself fascinates me. You could allow Roger to have maybe guessed about one thing and gotten it right just or simply by pure coincidence, but a half a dozen different items that line up perfectly with what we now envision an early bipedal hominin to look like, that's Patty. I mean, she epitomizes our current concepts of that stage of hominin evolution. And in that regard, it's a remarkable piece of evidence. So in 1967, the concepts of anthropology were rather different, and the human niche was seen to be rather exclusive. evolution of the human lineage was seen as a single file march, one species being succeeded by another. We now have thrown that concept out the window as the discovery of hominins has really burgeoned. We have this remarkably bushy tree with multiple species coexisting across the landscape for millions of years. And in fact, many of these lineages have persisted until much more recently than ever suspected before. One of those could certainly be Sasquatch. I'm often asked what's the most compelling evidence. From my perspective and expertise as a student of human and primate locomotion, it's the footprint evidence that drew me in. And likewise, many of my scientific predecessors, Dr. Grover Krantz, Dr. John Napier, it was likewise the composite data set of the footprints that compelled them to take this matter seriously. Something, as Dr. Napier said, something is leaving footprints. And we should be able to distinguish between hoaxes and misidentifications and the real McCoy. I find that hoaxes are really few and far between, and most of the chaff that I winnow through is in the form of over-imaginative interpretation, misidentification of say, bear tracks, or simply interpreting a pothole or a divot or scuff that is vaguely footprint-shaped as an actual footprint. So, yeah, I think the footprints by far are stand or beg to be accounted for as compelling evidence.
I would like Bigfoot to exist. I've met people who swear they've seen Bigfoot. And I think the interesting thing is every single continent, there is an equivalent of Bigfoot or Sasquatch. There's the Yeti, there's the Yari in Australia, there's the Chinese wild man, and on and on and on. And, you know, I've had stories from people who, you have to believe them. So there's something, I don't know what it is. I'm always open-minded. I think that it doesn't make sense to think we're the only intelligent form of life. This wall that was built between us, we're just the only really intelligent, capable of this, that, and the other. Difference in kind between us and the other animals, that wall is broken down.
From the perspective of an anthropologist, an anatomist, biologist. And so the evidence that impresses me that suggests the existence of this creature points to it being a large bipedal primate. It's particularly interesting to me due to my interest in the evolution of human bipedalism. And sharing that habit with another species of primate living alongside us is a unique and interesting opportunity of comparison and contrast to that adaptation. Yeah, I think the footprints by far are stand or beg to be accounted for as compelling evidence.
Oh, quiet.
It's horseshit.
Yeah.
But if you believe enough, if you